At number 10 we have cannabis edibles. With the rise of mainstream cannabis use, there has been an urban legend circulating that some houses aren't giving out regular gummy bears. Instead, they're putting a supercharged weed edible into your pillowcase disguised as candy. If you're doing this on Halloween and kids come to your house and they say trick or treat, you can say both. In recent years, this has been one of the more popular warnings, everyone telling their kids that they should look out for candy with strange packaging because it might launch them into the stratosphere if they eat it. I mean, this might happen, but I highly doubt it. I don't think anyone is going to spend thousands of dollars on weed edibles just to waste them on a bunch of kids. The last thing someone thinks when they buy a bunch of weed is, let's use this to make sure a bunch of kids have a really good time. No, if someone is buying a massive amount of edibles or making them themselves, they aren't going to try and ruin your Halloween. They're probably just stocking up for the apocalypse so they can still get high while the world is on fire. At number 9 we have the 13th floor. When you go into a building, why is there no 13th floor? We all know the superstition about unlucky number 13 and Friday the 13th. I mean, there's an entire movie series about it that gave birth to one of the most famous horror characters of all time. But there is a great urban legend that merges Halloween and the creepy 13th floor. Apparently way back when the 13th floor was still a thing in buildings, someone decided to put on a haunted house in one. A multi-layered haunted house that spiraled all the way up to the 13th floor. Each level of the house was a different theme and scarier than the last. This 13-layered dip of doom was so scary that most people turned around and headed back to their homes with pee-filled costumes. And those were the lucky ones, because everyone who managed to make their way all the way to the final stage was never heard from again. That's a crummy reward for being the bravest person around. Death? Maybe they were never heard from again because there was a bunch of gold up there and they took it and moved to the Bahamas. Well, that would be better. At number 8 we have LSD tattoos for kids! More drugs for kids. Again, I would like to say no one will do this. Drugs are expensive and no one wants to waste them on your screaming toddler. Although if I was gonna dose a misbehaving kid with any sort of drug, it would probably be LSD. A few drops in his little sippy cup and I'd be like, hey, deal with your ego, you're annoying to everyone. In the 70s, when LSD was all over the news, a rumor got started that some people were putting LSD in those pressable tattoos for kids. Parents all over America started to throw them out because they didn't want little Timmy to reach a higher plane, man, like really trip out, dog. At number 7 we have college campus murders. Killing a bunch of co-eds all dressed slutty on Halloween night? Wow, so original. If you're gonna be a serial killer, at least bring something new to the table. Killing hot chicks on a spooky holiday is about as original as a seductive vampire movie. Well, this legend started in the 60s and it does have a little bit of flair to it. The legend involves a TV psychic making a prediction that a bunch of people will be killed on a college campus on Halloween night. Everyone goes crazy and college kids are too frightened to run around super drunk and half naked, and they spend their Halloween in their bedrooms watching scary movies, hoping next year they can hook up with someone they'll never talk to again. Of course, this never happened. It was a rumor kicked around probably by some teens. But I don't know, maybe for fun we should all go to a psychic and see if we can get them to tell us about a bunch of grisly murders that are on the horizon. Also, if you're a psychic and you see the future and there's a bunch of people getting massacred, shouldn't you do something about it? At number 6 we have Halloween hitchhiker. You're never really supposed to pick up hitchhikers, but I think you should be extra careful on Halloween night. It's just an extra spooky time and you don't want some random person on the side of the highway to feel inspired by the date and then chop you into little pieces. The legend of the Halloween hitchhiker is a tale as old as time. A trucker picks up a lady walking on the side of the highway. This is on Halloween night. She gets in, they start to talk for a bit, and the conversation leads her to talking about a gruesome murder that she witnessed. The girl who she describes in the murder is strangely similar to herself. The trucker is starting to get very freaked out. Luckily they're close to her destination. He lets her out of the cab of the truck, she thanks him, and then when he looks in his rearview mirror to see where she goes, she vanishes. Spooky. At number 5 we have Halloween gang initiation. As time goes on, we get new urban legends that will fit our changing culture. The Halloween night gang initiation was a rumor that got passed around and even made its way onto the news. The public was warned that the world famous gang, the Bloods, was going to be doing a gang initiation on Halloween night. This initiation consisted of them killing 31 women on Halloween. Seems like a bit much. I mean, I've never been in a gang, but I'm sure after the first 15 you'd be like, you know, this guy is very serious. I think we should let him in. I mean, if I had a gang and someone wanted in, all they would have to do is take me on a really nice date and then afterwards give me their Disney Plus password, but I'm just a simple guy. This rumor also got so out of control that the number skyrocketed to 141 women. Thankfully, it was revealed that it was all a hoax, so ladies across the world could go out on Halloween night without worried about being murdered. Well, worried less about being murdered. I don't know how much you normally worry about being murdered. At number 4 we have Where's Mama's Head? A famous Halloween picture of Susan and John Buckley. It shows them standing with their mother, Susan with an axe in her hand, and John with his mother's head in his hands. And also, their mom's decapitated body kneels between them. This picture is over 100 years old and it looks terrifying, and the story behind it is all the kids in the neighborhood were going to get dummies and cut their heads off as a Halloween prank. John and Susan wanted to be the best pranksters in town and they cut off their mom's head. Then they took this photo. The police came to the house and the Buckley siblings were nowhere to be found. What the police did find was their mom's body half eaten. I guess after they killed their mom they were like, wait, who's gonna make dinner? Not a lot of foresight with these two. However, this picture was photoshopped. The two kids never killed their mom and then took a picture with her head. Like I said before, this photo is over 100 years old, so that means there would have needed to be a third person involved to take the picture. There was no like setup camera picture thing back then. And that guy probably would have been like, man, that dummy looks awfully real and awfully familiar. Here's the real photo. At number 3 we have Haunted Halloween Doll. Apparently this urban legend was actually the inspiration for the movie Chucky. It was back in the 1900s and there was a young boy named Robert. He was hanging out doing whatever kids in the 1900s would do, probably throwing rocks and being illiterate, I don't know. Well, it was Robert's lucky day because his maid had a little gift for him. It was a little doll which was also named Robert. Not a very good idea. I mean, if you're gonna give someone a doll, at least give them a doll that doesn't have a name. Shouldn't they be allowed to name it? Well, apparently this doll was named Robert, so it would be forever linked to this boy because it had a voodoo curse on it. Huge bummer. That would be a gift that I would definitely re-gift to someone else. Well, the doll tormented the kid for his whole life until it eventually drove him to kill himself. Oof, bummer. At number 2 we have Spider Wig. This one is a classic. I had to put it on the list. A girl is trying to throw together a cheap Halloween costume, so she starts going through her grandparents' things. She heads into the basement and finds a bunch of stuff, including an old wig and a nice witch's hat. Amazing. She's ready for Halloween night on a budget. She heads over to her friend's Halloween party, but when she gets there, people can't look at her without screaming at the top of their lungs. It is Halloween, but that's not the response you're looking for when people look at you. Well, she starts to feel a weird itching sensation all over her body. She rushes into the bathroom, looks into the mirror, and she sees thousands of little spiders crawling all over her body. You tried to save money and have fun on Halloween, and now you get screwed over. Next time, just go to Spirit Halloween and buy the overpriced wig. And our number 1 spot is the Undying Mask. I'm pretty sure this one got started from a Goosebumps book, but it's about a mask that you put on that you can never take off. The legend goes that someone walks into a mysterious costume shop on Halloween night. They need a last minute costume and they see this mask. It's a mask of an old dying man, and they think, why not? An old dude would be great. Easy costume. They take it home, they put it on, and it looks strangely real, like it's attached to their skin. But then the mask won't come off, as if it has become a part of them. They start to freak out. How do I get this thing off my face? So they run back to the costume shop, but it's empty. Just a hollow building with nothing in it. The longer they wear the mask, the more the mask becomes a part of them until it takes over their whole body. They become the dying old man that the mask represented. They make a full transformation and then they're never themselves again. Woo!
Coming in at number 10, we have a Halloween flasher. Nothing says scary like your neighborhood pervert. I guess this is a big worry when parents let their kids knock on doors alone. In 2013, John Vowles of Deltona was arrested after several reports of him flashing young children. He would answer the door to trick-or-treaters wearing a loosely tied robe that exposed his genitals. What a weirdo. He isn't the only creep to have flashed kids either. The same thing has happened in many countries, including England, where in Lancashire a man answered his door fully nude to children on Halloween. Ew. Nude creeps are actually scarier than any Halloween costume. Coming in at number 9, we have candy thieves. Kids already get free sweets on Halloween, so those that turn to petty robbery are just outright greedy. In 2011, 5 teenagers from Dale City in Virginia, aged between 15 and 19, terrorized trick-or-treaters, demanding that they give them their candy. When the treaters refused, they then threatened them with a gun, which they didn't use, but they did attack them. Luckily, the teenagers were later arrested. Coming in at number 8, we have a Snickers stabber. In the year 2000, a man named James Joseph Smith snuck needles into Snickers bars that he handed out on Halloween, one of which stabbed a teenager in the mouth, although luckily it wasn't serious. Nonetheless, as several children had been given the needle-laced Snickers bars, the police investigated and charged Smith with adulterating a substance with intent to cause death, harm, or illness. Unfortunately, he isn't the only candy stabber. On Halloween of 2016, a nail was found stuck in a Snickers in Coldwater, Michigan. I guess, like, how much can you really trust stuff that comes from strangers? Coming in at number 7, we have a girl shot because she was mistaken for a skunk. Like, how does this happen? An 8-year-old girl was enjoying a Halloween party in some fun trick-or-treat times when she was shot by a relative who mistook her for a skunk. Unsurprisingly, this happened in the USA, and the girl was flown 30 miles away from her home to a hospital in Pittsburgh, where she eventually recovered. She'd been dressed in a black and white Halloween costume and was shot by her cousin, who basically thought that she was a small mammal. I have no idea though, because 8-year-olds are significantly bigger than skunks. What kind of skunks is he seeing out there? She was in a very serious condition, but luckily she didn't die, so be careful when you're shooting skunks, or maybe just don't shoot skunks. Coming in at number 6, we have the East Coast rapist. In 2009, 3 teenage girls were out trick-or-treating in Woodbridge, Virginia, when they unknowingly came across the East Coast rapist. Aaron Thompson spotted the girls out walking with a bag of candy in the rain. He used a fake gun to force the girls behind a shop and then ordered them to lay down in a line, while he took them one by one in the woods to rape them. One of the girls managed to text her mum to say that a man was raping her friend in the woods and that she should call the police. Luckily, the police came, but Thomas got away. He was caught 2 years later and linked to at least 13 other rapes. He was gladly sentenced to 6 life sentences plus 80 years. To be fair, like, I'm really happy that he's behind bars, because what a sicko. Coming in at number 5, another sicko, we have the Candyman. For those of you that watched our video about Halloween deaths, you will have already heard of this man. The Candyman was the name given to killer dad Ronald O'Brien, who gave cyanide-laced pixie sticks to his children and 3 other kids in the neighborhood. This was all out while they were trick-or-treating on Halloween in the 1970s. Sadly, his son died of cyanide poisoning, however the other kids managed to avoid the candy. The reason he poisoned the candy? It seems it was to claim life insurance of his children to cover his debts. He was killed by lethal injection in 1984. Unfortunately, the victim at number 4 did not pull through. We have the sad murder of a 12-year-old boy. In Halloween of 2008, a 12-year-old boy suffered from a fatal shot to the head. He and his family were gunned down with 30 rounds of an assault rifle as they knocked on Quentin Patrick's door in Sumter, South Carolina. The family were out trick-or-treating, but the paranoid ex-convict thought they were trying to rob or shoot him. 12-year-old TJ Darasaw was with his 9-year-old brother and his dad, who were also injured. His mother and toddler younger brother were not harmed as they stayed in a car nearby. County Councilman Charles Eden said, "It's gonna put a dampener on Halloween," and like, I mean, you think? Another kid shot for no reason on Halloween, we have the murder of Tony Bagley at number 3. 7-year-old Tony Bagley was dressed as a skeleton as he went out trick-or-treating with his family in 1994. Sadly, as he walked excitedly ahead of his family, a man wearing a hood ran into the street, opened fire, and then got away in a waiting car. Tony's sister required surgery following the attack, and his aunt was shot in the leg and his mother in the chest. All of their females survived, but Tony died later in hospital. The killer was never found and the case is unsolved, which means that this Halloween murderer is still out there. Coming in at number 2, we have another trick-or-treat murder. In 1957, Peter and Betty Fabiano were about to go to bed on Halloween night when the doorbell rang. Despite thinking it was a little late for treaters, Peter opened the door with a bowl of candy and was met with a masked woman and a paper bag. Betty heard a shot and a screech of tires and found her husband lying dying in a pool of blood. He died on the way to to hospital, and Betty had no idea how to explain the crime other than trick-or-treaters showed up and shot her husband. Eventually it turned out a jealous friend by the name of Joan Rabble had convinced her lover, Goldine Pizer, to shoot Betty's husband. Pizer and Rabble called Peter evil and vile. After Pizer had killed Fabiano, Rabble hoped that she would win the affections of Betty, telling Pizer to forget her, which is how the whole scheme became unraveled. Coming in at number 1, we have the Halloween killer and rapist. 9-year-old Lisa French was dressed as a hobo when she was out trick-or-treating with her parents on Halloween night of 1973. She knocked on her neighbor Gerald Turner's door and he invited her in. In his sick confession, he recalls the look of fear in her eyes as he shut the door behind her. Lisa French never returned home and her parents raised the alarm. Sadly, she was later found dead on a nearby farmland. Eventually, Turner admitted to raping and strangling the young girl and received a 38-year prison sentence. At the time of the murder, he was already accused of molesting another young girl. One glimmer of light to come from this horrible proceedings were that law changes were made to keep sexual predators in jail until they were deemed safe to society.
Coming in at number 10, we have the poison candy myth. The scariest urban legend is that there are people out there that put poison in candy. We all have heard stories about razor blades, needles, and even glass being in kids' candies, and that's why parents have always checked candies before being consumed. There have been so many cases of people all over the world of people deliberately wanting to harm children by hiding harmful things inside their Halloween candy, such as Ronald O'Brien, who was nicknamed the Candyman. He intentionally spiked his 8-year-old son's pixie sticks with cyanide in order to claim a $20,000 life insurance policy. So please do us all a favor and check your kids' candy to see if it has been tampered with and make sure that they are safe.
Moving on to number 9, we have the toxic tattoos. But before I go any further, you know the drill. Please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Come on, help us out. As a kid, I remember being so excited whenever I got temporary tattoos. I always felt so cool and grown up wearing them. But since the 70s, there's been an urban legend going around about these temporary tattoos. Legend goes that drug dealers were putting LSD into them. Why? Well, this was a plan to get kids hooked on the drug and keep them coming back for more. People were so concerned that this was real that schools sent parents notices warning them of this. They were said to look out for tattoos in the shapes of blue stars or popular characters like Mickey Mouse or Bart Simpson. In fact, this legend was so popular that in some schools, temporary tattoos were banned.
Coming in at number 8, we have the Forever Mask. Halloween is about dressing up as something or other and walking door to door to get enough candy to keep your blood sugar levels blasted through the roof until the next Halloween comes around. Either that or pull off a ton of pranks with fireworks and hopefully keep all your fingers. Well, there's an urban legend that is about those who don't respect the laws of Halloween. People are trying to ruin this sacred day for everyone else. The legend says that there are spirits of the dead who will walk the earth on Halloween, and they like all the horror stuff we do because they see it as us honoring them. But if they walk the earth and they see someone who disgraces the day and they are wrapped in a costume, they will curse them to never be able to take their costume off. It seems like a pretty dark outcome, but very easy to avoid. Just don't be rude on Halloween and you won't have to worry about any of this. This urban legend sounds like it was pulled right from the Goosebumps book, The Haunted Mask, but who knows, maybe it's true.
Making our way down the list, number 7, we have the initiation. Back in 2008, there was a rumor going around started by an email hoax. The email warned people of a gang initiation that was going to take place on Halloween night. According to the email, a gang was holding an initiation where recruits would have to kill 31 women, one for every day of October. Then people received another email saying that they were going to kill 140 women. So it was advised for women to stay home, stay safe, and to lock their doors. Thankfully, this was all just one big Halloween hoax.
Coming in at number 6, we have the Buckley family. The legend of the Buckley family began when all the children in the neighborhood decided to get in on one prank where they were all going to get a dummy and pretend to chop its head off on Halloween night.
The Buckley family children, Susan and John, had a different plan. They thought it would be funny to actually go ahead and behead their mother.
So when trick-or-treaters came to the door, they got an axe and murdered her. Soon after, the police were called, and by then the children were long gone. Coming in at number 5, we have razor blades and apples. This is an urban legend that has been around for an insanely long time. You know how this urban legend has been around forever? Because it involves people giving out apples on Halloween. If you get an apple from some house on Halloween, you know that house is being sus and they need to be booted off the block. What kid wants to enjoy a nice Granny Smith when he could be eating a Mars bar? Do you want to feel like you're blasting into space, or that you're getting told a long story from your gran? One of those sounds way better than the other one. But if you don't know this urban legend, it's very self-explanatory. Apparently some psycho was pushing razor blades into apples and then giving them to kids. So when kids would bite into them, they would slice their mouth open. A horrible thing to think about, but also very easy to remedy. If you get given an apple to eat on Halloween, you can take it and then just throw it into a field. Then you don't have to worry about anyone putting any strange things into your food, and you don't have to worry about eating an apple that has a razor blade in it. I mean, Halloween is a holiday that's all about high fructose corn syrup.
Coming in at number 4, we have the sacrifice. I think we have all heard the superstition surrounding black cats. It's believed to be bad luck if a black cat crosses your path on Friday the 13th. Black cats have been associated with bad luck and witchcraft for ages, so it's not surprising that there's tons of creepy urban legends surrounding them. So this next urban legend claims that on Halloween, satanic cults roam the streets looking for black cats to sacrifice. As a result, families were warned not to let their cats out on Halloween. In fact, because of this legend, some animal shelters prohibit you from adopting black cats on or near Halloween.
Taking our number 3 spot, we have the Hanging Man of Halloween. All of us have been to a Halloween store and seen certain decorations that have scared us by looking so realistic.
Like Spirit Halloween, the ones that you like press and they pop out of you, those ones terrify me, but I also love them. Well, this urban legend states that certain Halloween decorations that people put up of bodies or mannequins hanging from houses and trees are actually real, dead, rotting corpses done by either suicide, murder, or even accidental deaths.
Halloween props and decorations have become so common and realistic that even the most graphic decorations you would think twice about. Seriously guys, keep your eyes peeled this Halloween. Coming in at number 2, we have the spider wig. Everyone wants to get all dolled up for Halloween, but the thing is, this can all be super expensive. So everyone who wants to look good might be also looking for some discount goods they can take home. That's where this urban legend comes into play. Apparently there was a girl who wanted a black witch's wig for a Halloween costume, but everywhere she looked they were either too expensive or terrible quality. Eventually she found a costume shop that was tucked away at the far end of town. When she walked in there, it seemed like no one had entered this shop for ages, but at this point she was desperate and figured she would look around to see what she could find. After a little bit of searching, she finally found it. It was an exquisite piece, a massive wig that looked like it was made from real hair. She took it right to the cashier and then took it home. It fit perfectly with her costume. That night she was at a party and someone commented that there was something on her shoulder. She brushed it off and a massive spider plopped onto the ground. People shrieked as hundreds of spiders started pouring out of her wig and all over her body. On the bright side, she had the scariest costume that night.
And in our number 1 spot, we have Halloween night of 1962. A couple of years ago, this creepy photo was circulating the internet. The photo was a group of people in masks, apparently attending a Halloween costume party. The legend goes that right after that photo was taken, the man in the black mask in the photo locked all the doors from the outside and tried to kill everyone at the party, but only succeeded at killing 7 individuals with a kitchen knife. Now it's said that the man managed to escape and has never been found. In 1969, police found the killer's mask, but to this day, the killer has never been caught. Thankfully, this is a completely fabricated story used to scare kids on Halloween.